Hey, what's up everybody? And today we need to talk about the PlayStation Vita. This is one of my all-time favorite consoles ever made. I really do have a soft spot for this console. In many ways, it's changed how I view and even play games. It's introduced me to so many games and genres that I would have never played before owning a Vita, and it really has been a fantastic device over the years. However, PlayStation sadly didn't exactly treat this console the way it deserved, and that's more evident than ever before with them shutting down the Vita store later this year. I definitely don't agree with that, but if there's ever a time to get a PlayStation Vita, right now would be that time. Physical games are skyrocketing in price, so you might want to take advantage of the much cheaper digital prices. And it's not just Vita games specifically, but the Vita is actually a very versatile console. There's a lot of great PlayStation 1 games available, and also PSP games. I will post some of my favorite legacy games in the comments below, but in this video, we are strictly going to talk about games made for the Vita. So today I have a list of 25 Vita games that I think are absolutely fantastic. Don't get too wrapped up on the order or anything like that, as some of these are very close to one another in terms of quality, but these are all games that I really enjoyed on the PlayStation Vita. If I do miss any of your favorites though, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll check out your recommendations as well. With that said, let's get right into the list. So to start things off, I have two Kart Racers, Mod Nation Racers Road Trip, and then Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. Both of these games are really fun kart racers, though I would say Sonic has the overall better level design. At the same time, however, I always liked how Mod Nation Racers handled. It plays very similar to Diddy Kong Racing, which is my all-time favorite kart racer. Mod Nation Racers was widely criticized at launch for a lack of online multiplayer, which was definitely a big mistake, but I don't think that's nearly as big of an issue now. You can pick up either of these games and have a lot of fun if you do like kart racers. Next up, I have God of War, and there are several God of War games available on the PlayStation Vita. You have the God of War collection, which includes 1 and 2. These are native Vita ports, and while they don't look as good as let's say, the PS3 version, having God of War on the go is still pretty epic. Now you also have God of War Chains of Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta, which are PSP games. These are still amazing to this day though, especially Ghosts of Sparta. So yeah, if you do like God of War before he became a father, definitely check these games out on the PlayStation Vita. Now for fans of the Monster Hunter genre, here's an interesting game. Freedom Wars, which was apparently very popular over in Japan. It didn't have the same success in the West, but Freedom Wars is set in a dystopian future where you're a prisoner and have to serve a sentence of 1,000,000 years. Yeah, you did hear that right, but however, you can reduce your sentence by going out on different missions where you can kill huge robot-like creatures and save civilians. The combat, as you'd expect, is fantastic, it's very addictive, and it has a great atmospheric setting. If you're a fan of the Monster Hunter genre, Freedom Wars is one you're definitely going to want to play. There's been plenty of Tales of games throughout the years, and it's been a pretty consistent action JRPG franchise. Well, Tales of Hearts made its way to the Vita, and it's a pretty solid entry in the Tales of series. The colors pop off the Vita screen and feels really nice on a handheld. Now, I don't think it reaches the same heights as something like, let's say, Tales of Vesperia in terms of story, but it has an enjoyable cast of characters, and the combat is as fun as ever. I will say though, Tales of Hearts does not have an English dub, and only has English subtitles, so do keep that in mind. Unit 13 was one of those early Vita exclusives promising an immersive third-person shooting experience on the go, and in many ways it did exactly that. It's a mission-based game with challenging gameplay and very well done shooting mechanics. It can be a rather addictive shooter, and visually it looks fantastic. The AI can be a little tough though, and it doesn't have much in the way of story, but it's still a very fun shooter as you would expect coming from Zipper Interactive. Yet Unit 13 was made by the SOCOM studio, and sadly, this was their last ever game before being shut down. Here's another action JRPG, Ys 8. Now the Ys series is all about its gameplay, so don't go in expecting some amazing story, but the combat and gameplay is stellar, and it does have some good characters that you recruit and spend time with. So basically at the beginning of the game, you and some other passengers are on a ship that was suddenly attacked. You then wash up onto a cursed island where you recruit new members and build up a base, all while exploring its vast island. This all feels very satisfying as well, especially the combat. You play as a party of 3 in which each character has their own unique abilities, and just as a hack and slash type of RPG, it really is great. However, if you do have a hard time finding this game, I will also recommend Ys Memories of Celceta. Ys 8 is a little harder to find with that physical version. Ratchet & Clank has been a long-running franchise that's captivated the minds of players since the PlayStation 2 days for its over-the-top weapons, insanely fun gameplay, and charming and lovable characters. It's a nice mix of platforming with over-the-top shooting mechanics. These are among the best 3D platformers ever made. Well, you can actually go back and play the original trilogy on your Vita, and I'm happy to say it does look and play great on a portable screen. These are old school games and they do show their age, but fans of the series will definitely enjoy having this trilogy on the go. It is hard to find a physical version though, so if you do watch this video before that digital store goes away, buying it digitally might be the route to take. Wipeout is well known for being one of the better futuristic racing franchises, and 2048 shows exactly why. Its brilliantly designed tracks and speed feels fantastic on the Vita. It does have some longer load times, but once you get started racing, it's a thrilling experience. Now, its online service went down, I believe, in 2018, but the campaign is still a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. Now, here's a unique trilogy that you might want to try. The Zero Escape Trilogy. There is 999, Virtue's Last Reward, and then Zero Time Dilemma, all of which you can get on your Vita. These are very story-driven games playing out kind of like a visual novel with some puzzles thrown in. Now, these games aren't exactly going to be for everybody, but these games are all about 9 individuals being kidnapped, and then they're forced to play a life-or-death escape game. That's where the puzzles come in as you're put into different escape rooms. This mixes really well with its story, and the stories do have several branching paths as you make different choices. If you want something a little different though, check out the Zero Escape Trilogy. I've always been a big fan of the Digimon series, and for years, I've always wanted some good Digimon games. I do remember enjoying the Digimon World games on the PlayStation 1, but Digimon Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory might be the best games in the series yet. The visuals look great, you have an engaging story, and most importantly, the turn-based battle mechanics and monster capturing is both fun and addictive. You can get various Digimon and branching evolution paths, and fight 3 Digimon at the same time. I think fans of the series will really like this game, and even if you don't like Digimon, you might still like this game because it really is a good turn-based JRPG. Here I have Trails of Cold Steel. This is yet another turn-based JRPG, though it has that social aspect blended in as well. That mechanic seems to be growing in popularity where you have to manage time and bond with different characters in the cast, and thankfully both the story and its characters are really good in the series. This is a premier title within the genre, but prepare to stay for the long haul. This is a long-running series with 4 Trails of Cold Steel games, and then you also have the Trails in the Sky, which I actually do prefer. Thankfully, Trails in the Sky 1 and 2 are on the PSP, so you can still get those on your Vita. I am a huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and the Vita might be my favorite way to play these games. First off, you have the Metal Gear Solid collection, which includes Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. A lot of fans view 3 as the best in the franchise for its combination of epic boss encounters, great espionage gameplay, and its very memorable cast of characters and story. For that game alone, it's worth checking out this collection. But if you've been noticing a trend here, again, the Vita is very versatile. You can also get Metal Gear Solid 1 by transferring it from your PS3, and then Peace Walker, which is a PSP game. 2D platformers are some of the most timeless games ever made, and I think Rayman is among the all-time greats. Both Rayman Origins and Legends are amazing 2D platformers. They look great on the Vita, they control like a dream, they have a ton of personality, and these are near flawless platformers. I mean, really, if you like platformers even just a little bit, these are must-own games. Okay, so I'm actually going to combine 3 games to this one spot, and all 3 of these games are different from one another. These are all Vanillaware games, and they look absolutely stunning in motion. Each one of these games has a very unique and beautiful art style to them. You have Dragon's Crown, which plays kind of like classic beat-em-up style games. You have Odin Sphere, which is an action RPG, and Miramasa Rebirth, which is also a side-scrolling action RPG. Everybody seems to have a different opinion on which game is the best, but I'm just going to say it. You need all three of these games on your Vita. They're insanely fun, and they really do look amazing on the Vita screen. Disgaea is a very wacky series to say the least. You know, it's all about demons and them trying to be bad, but along the way you often find that they're not so bad after all. Well, Disgaea IV is probably my favorite in the franchise. Per usual, the story doesn't take itself too seriously, but it is very amusing to see play out. And then it's all tied around its very in-depth tactical RPG system. You can move across the board, use over-the-top special moves, or even throw each other across the board to gain ground on your enemies. Its tactical gameplay is turned up to 10, and even the leveling system in this game is insane. I mean, the story's enjoyable and everything, but if you like the gameplay enough, its post-game is really strong thanks to its level cap being so high. I mean, the level cap is like 9,999. It's crazy, but definitely a lot of fun. And to round off the top 10, I have Soul Sacrifice Delta, which in my opinion is the go-to monster hunting game on the Vita. As you would expect from the monster hunting genre, Soul Sacrifice has great combat, but it also has a surprisingly good story. I wasn't really expecting that, but it does have a pretty good story. I actually think this particular game is vastly overlooked, and it really surprises me that it hasn't come to any other platform because it deserves more recognition. Now, with that said, if you're going to get this game, make sure to get Soul Sacrifice Delta, which is basically the definitive edition. The Delta version makes some things better with the re-release, and it has a lot more content than the base Soul Sacrifice release. Media Molecule might be most well known for Little Big Planet, but they actually built another game from the ground up for the PlayStation Vita, Tearaway. Now, this game did later come to the PS4, but again, this was built from the ground up for the Vita, and it really takes advantage of the Vita's unique features. I don't really know if another game's done it quite as good as Tearaway, but you use the touchscreen, rear touchpad, and even the camera. It's really cool how they mix all these features into a 3D platformer, and thanks to its unique art style, it's a rather beautiful game. Now, it doesn't offer much in terms of challenge, but a great experience nonetheless. Out of all of the collections that came to the Vita, I would rank Sly Cooper right at the top for various reasons. One reason is because Sly 4 is also on the Vita, which is a new release, and I am including that here. You can play all 4 Sly Coopers on your Vita. The other reason, though, is because I think Sly Cooper fits perfectly on a Vita. Its art style is timeless, and it's kind of unique in how it blends espionage with collectathon platforming. Sly Cooper has aged incredibly well, both visually and with its gameplay. If you enjoy 3D platformers, grab Sly Cooper on your Vita, and then thank me later. However, if you do buy the physical collection, do note that Sly 3 is not included on the cart, and the code that comes with it is unfortunately expired. You will have to get Sly 3 digitally. Killzone Mercenary still surprises me to this day. It is a technical masterpiece on the Vita. Mobile devices aren't necessarily known for having good first-person shooters, but Killzone Mercenary proves that you can have a good FPS on a handheld. It's got strong shooting mechanics, and it looks great. It's such a good game though, and that's exactly why it goes beyond just a single player. It also has a good multiplayer. That's a pretty good indictment on its mechanics, and because of that, I do recommend getting Killzone Bot Zone as well. That is a completely separate download, so make sure to get that before that store goes away. Gravity Rush is one of the most unique games, not just for the Vita, but as a whole. When you first see this game, yeah, it looks gorgeous thanks to its mesmerizing art style and world, but the gameplay is very interesting in how it works. So the way this game works is basically you're a superhero that can manipulate gravity to fall or rise into different directions. It's a lot of fun as you traverse its floating city to gather collectibles and fight off different monsters. The story itself is told in like a comic book type of way, though I think the main draw is its gameplay. Now, some players did seem to have troubles with its camera as you change perspectives, but I never really had that problem. My main issue with Gravity Rush is Sony's decision to not bring the sequel to the Vita. Still though, Gravity Rush is a great game nonetheless. In many ways, the PlayStation Vita might be one of the best ways to play the Final Fantasy franchise. You have Final Fantasy X, which comes with a 10.2 download code. Even though Final Fantasy X, originally released for the PS2, it still surprisingly looks really good on the Vita, which is a testament of how good it's always looked. The turn-based combat is as good as it ever was, and it has one of the most beloved stories in gaming history. Now you also have World of Final Fantasy, which is a really well made and cute Final Fantasy spinoff. It's kind of like Final Fantasy meets Pokemon, with a lot of references to the older installments of the franchise. You're going to see a lot of recognizable faces in World of Final Fantasy, which brings me to the classic games. You can get a lot of the classics on the Vita, such as 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Tactics. You can essentially turn your Vita into your own little Final Fantasy machine, and well, that's okay by me. These are amazing games to this day, and there's a reason fans love them so much. Here's another game that really made use of the Vita's unique features, Little Big Planet PS Vita. Now this was not made by Media Molecule this time, which is really surprising because of how good this game actually is. It was made by Tarsier Studios, and this is one of the better installments for Little Big Planet. It might actually be my favorite, but as you would expect, it's very creative and charming, but what really stands out to me is in how it used the Vita to make it even better. I don't usually get drawn into what I would consider gimmicks, but the way they used the touchscreen and rear touchpad for this game to interact with the environment was very well done. This allows for various puzzles and even small platforming sections. I truly believe this ranks at the very top of all Little Big Planet games, and that's saying a lot on its own. Now, Danganronpa is one of those games that really surprised me, and I would recommend playing all 4 of these games on the Vita, including the spin-off Ultra Despair Girls. I had no idea what to expect when I first played this game, and truthfully, I didn't even think I was going to like it. Instead, I was absolutely blown away with its dark and memorable story. So it plays out kind of like a visual novel with a mix of detective skills as you search for clues on who done it, or in other words, who's the killer. To put it short, the entire premise revolves around being stuck in a location, and the only way to escape is by killing a classmate, and if you get away with the murder, then you can be set free. Yeah, like I said, it's very dark, but also very captivating. You begin to be attached to the various characters in its world, but at the same time, you can't really trust anybody. For the stories alone though, I highly recommend you play these games. Now, fans of this channel might know by this point, I am a big fan of Uncharted. This is one of my all-time favorite franchises ever made, and Golden Abyss is vastly underrated. This is a full-sized Uncharted game in the palm of your hands. It has everything you would expect from an Uncharted game. Great characters, fun story, and solid gameplay, whether that be platforming or shooting. This truly is a great game, and it deserves a lot more attention. Now, it does try to use the Vita's touchscreen mechanics possibly a little too much, but all in all, Uncharted Golden Abyss is yet another fantastic Uncharted experience and a must-play game on the Vita. And at the number 1 spot, you all had to know it was coming. It's gotta be Persona 4 Golden. I mean, what can I say? This game is an absolute masterpiece, and I truly do mean that. First off, the story and its characters are phenomenal. I think it's one of my favorite cast of characters in any game ever made, and because of its mysterious story of what's happening in this atmospheric small town and missing people, you're always interested in seeing what happens next. It also has that social aspect to it where you manage time and mixes this masterfully with its story and gameplay. You can create bonds with various characters, and you feel more of a connection with them as you learn more about them on your own free time. Keep in mind you're just a high school student, so you do have a social life to maintain with school and friends. Then to top it off, it has satisfying turn-based combat where you try to exploit your enemy weaknesses by using different demons and their powers. Now, I know Persona 5 has become super popular as of late, but in my opinion, Persona 4 is the best in the franchise, though admittedly, Persona 5 does have better dungeons. Beyond that though, Persona 4 is simply amazing. Now with that said, I would also recommend picking up the Persona 2 duology as well as Persona 3. Anyways, that's it for this list, but if I missed any of your favorite games, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Really, I'm in the same boat as you all. I don't want to miss out on all these great Vita games either, so I will gladly check out your recommendations as well. Anyways though, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.